Hi, hello there. Oh, yeah, and welcome to the pre podcast series of Productive Introvert Community podcast. So, I have been totally, I've been switching between a couple of different things, but work wise, completely absorbed into this podcast. So many other things on the list to do, but I thought, I'm so enthusiastic about it. I'm going to spend all day doing some stuff for that today. And I wanted to share with you some progress. Yay, progress. Small steps every time, but some really nice stuff to share. And I thought today I could also share a little bit of the tools that I'm using to make things, try to make things a little bit easier and make them go a little bit faster. So, where are we now? I already talked about like the bigger overview of the structure that I'm going to be using and how I'm linking the podcast to my website and then also to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and the other places. So if you're interested in that and you haven't seen that episode, go back to I think the previous or the one before that I talked about that. Um, so now I am actually onto some details. So I knew I wanted some music for my podcast, and don't have any experience with music. So things like that, it's best left to professionals, right? If you're really good with music, go ahead and do it yourself. There are great tools to do that as well, but it's not my zone of genius. So I went on Fiverr and I asked someone to make some custom music for me. And I sent over a couple of samples. They were all very different, three different samples. So I was a bit worried that I was asking for too much, but he did an amazing job at kind of blending that together and creating a custom piece that I really, really like. So let me find it so I can give it a listen. So here it is. Isn't that cute? So those are the first 10 seconds of it. And it's like 30 seconds long. But I immediately became super happy when I heard it. I've asked a couple of people that I trust for their opinions, and it is varied. Some people that I've asked really love it. Other people are like, oh no, that's really cheesy and stuff. So opinions will differ, but the bottom line is when I heard it the first time, it made me happy, and that's great. I'm gonna run with that. Um, so that's music, great. So I'm preparing kind of like an introduction um, to that will be over on top of the music, right? So I'm gonna use Audacity to blend that together. So Audacity is a free audio editing tool that's really nice to work with. So I'm gonna try that bit myself, even though I'm very new to editing and music in general. But I think I can manage this. I've used Audacity before, and for this first run of the podcast, kind of testing things out, I think that yeah, I'm gonna give it a go. So that's the intro. And the interesting thing is, I'm not sure if I talked about this before, if I mentioned it in one of the previous episodes, but I read somewhere that Google can now also index spoken words. So the intro of the podcast is also used for keyword searches for SEO and stuff. So if you're really good at SEO, you can include keywords into your introduction of the podcast, and that will also be picked up in the rankings. So I'm not really good at SEO. I don't. I've looked at it a couple of times, also in my previous job. Um, it is kind of, to me, still quite complicated, but in the sense that it keeps changing, right? The way that we search, the keywords that we use, and how we search online. It's not like you pick your keywords once and then you're set. Sometimes you have keywords that are very robust, but it can change over time. So it's really something that you need to stay updated on. And I personally just decided that's not something that I'm going to become an expert in right now. So I don't pay a lot of attention to SEO and keywords, but just it's good to know, right? So if that's your thing, that's definitely something to pay attention to. So that's music and the intro. I've also been working on the like a new cover image because the size is different for every platform, which honestly annoys out of me. But I've decided I was just messing around with it a little bit, and I use Canva for that. I can show you an example. Made a couple of different versions. Just took a picture down the road here this morning. Plug that in. I may change it after a while, but for now it's great. I love it. So yeah, that's gonna be like the image that I place next to it when it goes to Spotify and things. And I've also done a test because I'm gonna use Anchor as like the home of the podcast. This is where the episodes are going to be hosted. And then I'm gonna pull the RSS feed to my website, and you send the RSS feed also to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the other places. So I decided to just do a little test because we have a you know, time is going fast, and I kind of like to know where I'm at. Um, so you're always gonna hit bumps, right? So give yourself a little bit of extra time to kind of fix those bumps as you go towards publication. And I'm trying to get as much of an idea of all the steps before we enter like the last stretch. And I also read that the different different places where you publish, like Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, all the different places, they take different times to actually publish the podcast once you send the request. And this can be anywhere between a few hours to a few days. And Apple Podcast is usually it's one of the longer timelines. I think people say around 3 days. So I'm gonna send the request a few days earlier than what I intend for the publication date to be. But as a test, I thought, let's try with Anchor. And Spotify recently acquired Anchor, so they are, merged now. And this is the back end of Anchor that I'll be using. This is my dashboard. So I already, in one of the episodes, told you about the 4 things that you need, minimal things that you need to get your tongue twister, to get your podcast published. So I won't go over that again. But yeah, so I did the test and everything is fine. So it really just tells you what to do. It's really not rocket science. And I put the first pre-podcast episode in as the test because I was thinking, oh, I should wait for the full podcast to be out before I can do this test. But yeah, I was making things conditional in that way, and it was giving me kind of a bit of stress. So when I feel that stress coming up, I ask myself the question, okay, what can I do to solve that problem for myself? What can I do to lessen that stress? And what could I do to already, get an idea of my next step? And this was it. So I put that stuff on there, and immediately it appeared on Spotify. So the podcast is actually already there on Spotify. I haven't told anyone. You're the first to hear about it. Because it's only just the first pre-podcast episode. It's not the real one yet. But now that it's out there, that's great. I can just keep adding as I go along, and I'm telling people in the meantime, first just my friends and close people, and then we can go from there. So a lot of big steps. Oh, and the final thing that I tested was to also see if I can pull the RSS feed to my website, because that was a big kind of a black box for me. So this is a page on my website that I set up as a test. It's also called test. And the YouTube video is there. It's huge. I want it a bit smaller. And the podcast thing is there. It's tiny. I want it a bit bigger. So it works. Just so now it's just about getting the layout a little bit, fix that a little bit, and then we're good to go. Of course, I'll add text and things like that later. But the backbone is there. The structure is there now. Oh, so I feel so much more comfortable about this. Um, yeah, and I basically I know what to do for the rest of the episodes. It's much easier. Um, so what's next? Next is basically filling this up. So I'm gonna start by adding all these free podcast episodes that I'm sharing with you right now. My process building the podcast. I'm gonna put those there too. I wasn't gonna do that initially, but hey, why not? It's a great way to test. And I have the content anyway, so I might as well put it out there for more people to see. So I'm going to put those in. And as I do that, I'm going to run into tiny things to fix. So we can fix those, like the image that popped up. Oh, I need that. Let's go take a picture and do that. Or the size of the video is too large. Let's fix that. So I have a little bit of time to get over those bumps. And I'm quite confident that yeah, we're gonna make our deadline. Great. It may not be in the exact format that I envisioned because, in all honesty, I haven't started with the actual podcast episodes yet. And I was planning to do like 8 of them in advance to to batch them in that way so I don't have to do one every week. I haven't started that yet. But that's okay. It's okay. We did a lot of stuff. Okay, we did a lot of stuff. I'm happy. I'm pleased. I'm pleased with my progress. So yeah, I wanted to share this a little bit with you. I hope you can celebrate with me as well because I was honestly quite nervous because I didn't know what I needed to do with all the steps. Um, we'll talk about that another time, how to bring that stress down a little bit. We already touched upon it today. So next time I'll share with you the rest of the things and how it's actually going with the publishing. Because the Spotify thing that was automatic because Anchor is now part of Spotify. I haven't sent requests to any other podcast platforms yet. So that's still a bit of a question mark there. But in theory, it shouldn't be difficult. In theory, everything's easy, right? uh, but I'll update you about that next time. All right. Thanks and talk to you soon. Bye.